Straight to the press review now. Luigi Mangione's pre-trial hearing continuing today in New York. It's garnering a lot of attention in the press, isn't it, Dipti?
Yeah, absolutely, Stuart. Luigi Mangione is, of course, accused of murdering United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Now, his pre-trial hearing began this week to determine what evidence can be used at his criminal trial, marking, as Newsweek says in its coverage, a critical stage in the case. Now, notably, the New York Times explains that his lawyers want to exclude statements that he made to the police after his arrest, arguing that the officers had failed to inform him of his constitutional rights at the time. They also say that a search of his backpack at the McDonald's where he was arrested was unlawful because it was done so without a warrant. So the New York Times reporting also on the frenzy of the first day of pretrial hearings in court yesterday. About 24 supporters of Luigi Mangione sat in the back rows of the courtroom wearing green, their signature color. I quote, "With giddy smiles, laughter and whispers, they craned their necks for a glimpse of Mangione." It's really proof of just how divisive this case has become for Americans and how divisive of a figure. You'll remember as well that in his backpack they found a sort of manifesto in which he railed against the for-profit nature of healthcare companies in America. People magazine, for its part, also noting that Luigi Mangione has been kept under a constant watch in a plexiglass cell to avoid an Epstein-style situation. This referring, of course, to Jeffrey Epstein's death by suicide in jail some years ago before he was able to face charges on sex trafficking.
Now, meanwhile, the aftermath of the devastating floods, we mentioned it earlier, in Southeast Asia and the subcontinent, particularly Sri Lanka.
Yeah, that's right. The president of Sri Lanka has declared last week's cyclone to be the largest and most challenging natural disaster in our history. This in a country that was severely affected by the 2004 tsunami, which killed tens of thousands of people there. The anger is really palpable in the Sri Lankan press today. This is the Island, a local paper there, and it headlines on a walkout staged by the opposition in Parliament yesterday amid angry, tense scenes. There's a lot of anger leveled against the government and the feeling by many that the government ignored cyclone warnings. And you'll see a sort of similar anger in the opinion pages of this paper today. This is the Daily Mirror, which headlines on the death toll, wondering if the death toll could exceed 1,000 people. And in its opinion pages today, in this one here, this writer says that the government has behaved, quote, like monkeys. Successive Sri Lanka governments, he says, have behaved like monkeys, scrambling for solutions only when disaster strikes, and accusing them of not anticipating natural disaster prevention. Story.
Now let's move to a story from The Guardian. This one is. It's about the rise of scam states.
It's really interesting and extremely worrying. It's in The Guardian today. The age of the scam state. It says these are illicit multi-billion-dollar industries that have taken root in Southeast Asia. Now, in particular, one in Myanmar called the Mayawadi. It's a city of Mayawadi, and there was a scam center called KK Park. Now, it was one of the country's most infamous scam centers. It was recently dismantled by authorities. Here, tens of thousands of people were essentially human trafficked to the center, forced by criminal organizations to defraud people all around the world. Those running it, by the time it was dismantled, had been long gone, The Guardian says, and they had already set up shop probably somewhere else. The Guardian explains that these scam centers have become now so monolithic that we're talking about scam states. So much like a narco state, a scam state is where this industry, the scamming industry, has dug its tentacles deep into political institutions, so much so that governments now are dependent on them economically. While the dismantling of KK Park was much vaunted by the junta, it's largely, quote, performative. There's very little interest by governments to actually dismantle them because it's so lucrative, Stuart.
Finally from Dipti, after the cancellation of the International Festival of Angoulême, that's the big comic book festival here in France, one British daily is warning Eurovision could be at risk as well. Oh,
Yes.
my goodness.
So that's right. For quite serious reasons, too. The Telegraph explains that the European Broadcast Union will be holding its General Assembly this week. And usually nobody cares about it, except that the future of Eurovision could be on the agenda. They'll be deciding essentially whether Israel gets to stay in the Eurovision context next year. You'll remember there's a lot of division over its war in Gaza. Things have become, quote, toxic, with two blocs opposed now. There is Spain, Ireland, Netherlands, Slovenia, and Iceland, all threatening to boycott if Israel stays in the competition, whereas countries like Austria and Germany are threatening to boycott if Israel is kicked out of the competition. The problem is that 5 countries essentially fund Eurovision, including Spain and Germany. So if either country pulls out, it could affect the entire financing of the contest. The crisis is being described as one of the most severe in the history of Eurovision, and it looks like it's all going to play out this week. Now, if reading this article made you feel intensely angry or rageful, Stuart, you could be suffering from Oxford's word of the year. It's rage bait. I'm sorry. It was a...
Can I just make one point?
It was an awkward transition.
It was an awkward. It's just rage bait. Now, don't get me wrong. Isn't that 2 words, Dipti?
Well, true. And it's not even hyphenated, Stuart.
No, exactly.
Maybe you might want to file a complaint with
Exactly.
Oxford Word of the Year
Anyway, tell us
panel.
why. Sorry.
Rage bait, 1 word or 2 words of the year, if you like, is being described as online content that is deliberately designed to elicit your anger or outrage or frustration, all in the goal of increasing clicks and traffic. So NPR explains that this term originated back in 2002 when the internet was focused on grabbing our attention through curiosity. Now, 20 years or more than 20 years later, it's doing so in the same way, but by really catering to our, I guess, need to feel rageful when we're on the internet. Rage bait beat out other words like aura farming, 2 words as well, and biohack. Possibly 1 word.
Possibly. I've got rage bait about the number of
about
words
the word
in
rage
bait.
bait.
Exactly. It's not good, is it? Dipti, thanks a lot. Dipti Killarol with the papers on front and more coming up straight after the break. Don't go away.